Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm really glad that you did. My name is Jeanne, and in this video, Leave It to Stitches to take me on a knitting journey. So I am a crocheter. I've been crocheting on and off since high school. Would do a project or start a project and then get busy with school, even in college. I don't think I crocheted much in college at all, but then afterwards started a project. I'm not even sure I finished those. It was always granny squares too. But my grandmother on my mom's side, my mom and her sister, and then my grandmother on my dad's side, all crocheted. And I learned a lot from them. But really, it was around 2015 that I really started crocheting very consistently. We were back in the US from South Africa for a year, and I was homeschooling my son, but I spent time with my mom and we would just crochet together, and she got me started back. I actually finished a blanket. Yes, it was granny squares, but did a lot more as well. We did a granny square top together. It was a great year. And then 2020, like a lot of people, I discovered YouTube tutorials, and it opened up a world of possibilities of stitches that I had never tried before, techniques I've never tried, and ideas for projects. And it was wonderful. Plus, having the time to be able to crochet, I just took off, went great guns crocheting. But as I was watching YouTube, and then I would watch knitting channels as well, there were some things in knit that I really thought were beautiful, were fun, created a drapey fabric that I was interested in. And I will say that socks, though, became the ultimate goal. I decided I wanted to learn to knit so I could make socks. Maybe some of that was watching the crazy sock lady and all the socks that she would make, and her patterns that she put out and the tutorials she put out. That was the goal, to make a sock or socks, a pair of socks. I also wanted to make hats. I really thought knitted fabric hats was really neat, and would make a great project. And so those two things, not really sweaters or blankets. I wasn't really that interested in getting that far until now. But let me go back and just say that learning to knit, I went on that journey because of socks. So what I want to do in this video is share the steps in my journey with you, uh, really for the hope that it would encourage you. Whether you want to learn how to knit, you don't want to learn how to knit, you're in the middle of learning how to knit, or maybe it's not knitting at all. Maybe it is another type of craft, whether it's crocheting or a paper craft or painting, watercolor, whatever it is, cross stitch, embroidery, whatever it is, that I hope that as I go through the steps I took and just my journey, that it would encourage you to keep going, to keep persevering, and to keep learning. So let's get started. And by the way, if you are really learning how to knit, my steps don't necessarily mean that they should be your steps. We are all different. We all have different journeys. And as I said, I'm just sharing with you the process, the steps I went through But I'm not saying that that's exactly what you need to do. You need to do what is comfortable, what you catch on to, what really clicks with you, what you want to do. Maybe your goal is not socks, but something else. And so, anyway, I just want this video to be an encouragement to you. So, step number one was learning about the tools. So, learning about knitting needles and learning which way I wanted to knit. So I watched my aunt, my mom's sister, did knit. She never really taught me, but I did watch. And I've seen knitters where they throw their yarn, and so anyway, I knew there was English style knitting, but through YouTube, I learned that there was continental style knitting. I know the Crazy Sock Lady does that style with her socks. And so I learned that there were two different kinds. I learned that there were so many different kinds of needles, from straight needles to circular needles to wooden to metal. And so I just took advice of people that I watched. I watched a lot of tutorials and I tried. I wasn't really trying to make anything at that time. I was just really just trying to go back and forth and learn what I like and what's easy for me, how to hold the yarn, and all of that. I will say, for me, Norman, who has a YouTube channel called Nimble Needles. His video on continental knitting is what clicked for me. It is what ultimately helped me with holding it and seeing my stitches. I even learned how to scoop up a stitch on knit stitches, and that was the video for me that the whole process clicked. So I did decide as a crocheter to hold the yarn in my left hand like I do with crochet and knit with my right. Because of that, I use circular needles mainly, because just straight needles, the length of them was very uncomfortable. The Crazy Sock Lady, I uses ChowGoo, and so I just started with those, and the metal needles were fine. And so, yeah, that is how I decided the tools and what type of knitting I would do. And then step two was doing a washcloth. I knew I just need to practice. Well, the first washcloth I tried, it is very common. It's a common washcloth, but you go from corner to corner, and you do, I think for increases, you do yarn overs, and it creates a lacy border, and mine was awful. In fact, it looked so terrible. I almost gave up knitting, but really I just put it down and said, it looks awful. I can't do this. It was because it didn't come out to be a square or a rectangle. It was, it was bad. And so I picked it back up again and went to Norman again. He has a tutorial for a moss stitch washcloth, and that is what I did. So I'll put a picture up, and if I don't have the projects, I will put pictures up, but I will, if I have them, show you. So here's the picture. You can see the picture, but here is the actual washcloth. It has been well used, and I don't know with the variegation if you can see the stitches really well, but it's a really pretty, squishy, uh, great pattern for a washcloth. And uh, it helped me practice both my knit stitches and purl stitches pretty consistently. The only thing that you start out with 3 rows, I think it is, or 5, I can't remember. Anyway, of all knit. So it creates what they call garter stitch. And then each row after that, then each row starts with 3 knit stitches on every row, but then you alternate purls, knits and purl stitches. So you get really good practice with both. And it was a great tutorial. Now, this one is well loved, and you can tell that I have used it. I don't block it. I just wash it, put it in the uh, cabinet until I'm ready to use it again because I have several, but love that. And then I found a tutorial for just seed stitch, and I love this one as well. You can see it's a little wonky, but that is because I wash and don't block them because I use them in my sink. But it did come out to be a nicer looking rectangle. Um, I did struggle, and you can tell that the top is a little bit tighter than the bottom where I started, and that is because cast off. I needed to practice that, casting off my stitches, and they were pretty tight. You can see this is the knot there at the end where I tied it off, and just needed to practice that. And so, but I did washcloths, and I did not corner to corner, but just back and forth washcloths, practicing knit and purl stitches. There was no increasing, no decreasing, just knit and purl stitches. So then the third step is I moved on to hats or beanies. And I found a young man on YouTube. His name is Ross at Smells Like Yarn on YouTube. Instagram, maybe Smell Great Guy. He likes to light candles in his yarn room, and so anyway, but everybody's linked below that I mentioned. But he has a hat pattern that's a plain basic. You do ribbing, and then you just knit, and then you'll do decreases. So making a hat, I learned then ribbing, which is important with socks, and I learned decreases. And in this case with the hat, I just learned, I think it was a knit two together decreases. And so I have a few hats. I will put pictures of them up. I did some with bulky weight yarn. I did some with DK weight yarn, and that is what this one is. And I did some with worsted weight yarn. But this is the one that I kept. That is with DK weight yarn. And that is what the top looks like. Very pretty, kind of that star pattern with those decreases. And yeah, so this was the next step in my knitting journey that would help me get to a place where I could do socks. Because as I said, you're doing different kinds of ribbing. I think most of the time in his patterns it was knit 3, purl 2, but I did change that up, learning different ribbings and then learning how to decrease and learning how to knit in the round, because even though you're using circular needles, when you turn and work back and forth, it is a little bit different where the yarn is coming where from the ball where it's coming from, and is different. You have to learn how to join in the round, and then the decreases as well. So this hat was my fourth step, and that was using a little bit smaller yarn to make a hat versus those bulky or worsted weight hats. And because you really come to understand that knitting does take longer than crochet, and the thinner the yarn, the more stitches you're making, the longer it takes, and that's okay. Well, for me, I love the process. Now if you like to just get things out and get them going, okay, maybe it might be frustrating to use smaller or thinner yarn and it take longer. But it was a good learning experience to say, yep, I can knock out a beanie and crochet in an evening or two, and it was taking me a week or longer to do hats when I knit, especially using the the thinner yarn. But I really love this hat. I love the colorway. It is a yarn, I think it's a Kismet yarn that I got in South Africa. I can't remember now, but I really love it. Um, so that was step 4, was to do a hat in, it was DK weight, but still thinner yarn. So the next thing I did, it was kind of by accident. It really wasn't in my plans, but I was flipping through a book that it was knit, crochet. There might have been some other. It was a crafting book that came while we were visiting my mother and father-in-law, and she had ordered it in the mail, and I was looking through it, and they had a pattern for a chevron scarf. So here is the picture from the book, and I fell in love with it. It's a keyhole, what I call a keyhole scarf. And I thought it was so beautiful. And I had this yarn, or maybe my mom had the yarn. We were visiting or the US, and I knew I had this yarn. And or it could have been, I could be really off track, and we could have gone back to South Africa and I had it in South Africa. It is an American yarn. Um, it is the Scarfy yarn, I think. Anyway, I know it was from the US that I bought it and just brought it back to South Africa with me, but quite a bit similar to what was in the picture. And I made a chevron scarf. This is what it turned out. And in fact, I will put a picture here. I made one crochet and knit, so I could just see the difference in the texture and the feel and the drape of it. But I ended up giving away my crochet one to a friend and kept this knit one. Yep, and there's the keyhole. And actually, it taught me a whole lot. I actually learned to do a knit through the front and back, because you have to have increases. And then we did knit 2 together. I don't think that was the slip knit, but we knit 2 together for the valleys, and then the increase was to knit front and back. The other thing I learned was how to read a pattern repeat and how to figure out how many stitches to cast on. The pattern in the book was awful. It did not even tell you how many stitches to cast on. So it really helped me see the stitches and be able to count and understand in knit. I understand in crochet, but understand repeats and how they work. And I made this scarf and I use it all the time. And I really love it. If I can figure out what yarn this is, I will let you know. I'll check my Ravelry page, but my Ravelry handle, whatever you want to call it, is linked in the description box below. So you can check out my projects. This one has been posted on my Ravelry page, but I really love it. I love the yarn. I love the way it turned out. It is a squishy fabric, so it's really nice, but not too bulky around my neck. And I love the keyhole that is in it. I don't know if I did it right, because I really had to figure out even that part of the pattern myself. The keyhole, it looked like, was going up and down, but yet the directions make it go across. It was the strangest pattern for being in a published book. But anyway, that's what it was. So that really helped me, especially with increasing, doing the knit front and back, and really learning how to knit through the back loop or the back of a stitch was very interesting. So now I'm on step 6. That was step 5. Step 6 was to crochet. Yes, you heard me right. I crocheted a sock. And because I thought it would be good for me to learn the construction before I got involved in knitting to learn the construction and how a sock was made and how you do a heel turn, how you get it to go across the foot and then up at the leg or vice versa. So my crochet one was knit toe up, but it really helped me understand how that worked. Now, I don't like the feel of crochet socks on my feet, so I have the picture, but I do not have that sock anymore. But this is the yarn I used. It's my Yarnable, and I just got out the basic white that has all these pretty pops of color, and then I used the leftover yarn and tried a sock. Now, this was made with a 3 millimeter hook or a 2.75. I can't remember. But I decided after making it that it was actually too big. So I just knit one sock. And I may have had enough yarn that if it fit right, I could have made another one, but I didn't like the way it fit. It was loose, and I knew that I needed to either go down stitches or try a different needle. And I know I was inspired, uh, or maybe there was a little bit of competition that the crazy sock lady was using 2.2 at that time millimeter hooks, and I was like, oh well, I can at least use a 2.5, which is what I end up using now. So I crocheted socks to get the feel of using fingering weight yarn. I did not mention that, but it also helped me know what um, working with fingering weight yarn was like and to understand the construction of socks. And then I did this one, trying to figure out if that needle would work with my gauge and all of that and how it fit. And I have to say, I found out that for me, crocheting a sock with a tiny 2.5 millimeter hook or smaller is more challenging than knitting with those tiny same millimeter needles. So, yeah, finally, step 7, I did socks. And uh, these green ones are my first ever knitted sock, and I love them. They are not perfect. The Kitchener stitch at the toe is not perfect, but that's okay. Picking up the stitches along the gusset wasn't perfect. Even my heel flap has some mistakes to it, but that is okay. I still wear them. You can tell they're fuzzy. I don't wash them. I throw them in the washing machine, and so they've got some fuzz on them, but they still hold up really well. Then my next step was, and this is number 8, was to do a patterned sock. This is the Crazy Sock Lady's morning coffee morning coffee sock pattern. And I really love it. I love it. It's a mock rib, but it wears like a rib in that it fits tight and then stretches kind of as you wear it. So not quite as tight as a 2x2 ribbing, but still is ribbed. And I ribbed on the top of the foot, but not on the bottom of the foot. So learned how to rib around there. So the thing that you learn with making socks is I was doing the knit two together decrease, and that is part of a sock, but also a slip knit. I did have to learn that, and how to do the turn, and I use DP ends for my heel turn, but I only use 2. And you actually learn about leaving live stitches on a needle or a wire. I actually left them on my circular needle and then used DP ends for the heel flap, and then picked how to pick up. And I watched a video by Norman, at Nimble Needles who picks up his gusset stitches with a crochet hook. And because I'm a crocheter, made it so easy. And finally, I worked on changing color. That's the better side. You can see where I picked up the new color on that side, but that's the inside. I wear that on the inside of my foot, but I learned to change color even with the heel flap and with the toe decreases. And so, yeah, I learned changing color, but I've also learned that my tension is loose. I did a video on my changing tension, which I will link here. You can check that out. But yeah, so I've also done, which I'll put pictures up, I've done socks for my husband. I've done a pair for my daughter. And so, yeah, actually I did 2 pair for my husband. And so working on a pair for my daughter now. And now I actually feel ready, step number 9, to do a full on sweater, which I am working on. And a lot of my videos, at the end of this video, there's a link to my playlist that you can check out. I talk quite a bit about the sweater that I am knitting. Now, a lot of people say, wow, you went from hats and scarves to socks. That's more difficult than going to a sweater. But for me, a sock is a continuous pattern. You're not making the body and going back and picking up like arms and or seaming or anything like that. It is one pattern until I got to thinking, well, I did short rows for the heel. I did put stitches on hold while doing the heel flap. So maybe sweaters are not as scary as I think they are, or I was thinking they are. And actually, I'm really finding that I'm enjoying sweater. The other advantage to doing socks before sweaters is that sweaters are a bigger project. If you make a mistake and have trouble fixing it, or you do have to pull the whole thing out, it is a big project. Where socks, it's not that big. Yes, the yarn is smaller, but if you have to go back, start over, it's a small project. Hats, washcloths, they're the same. Yeah, they don't feel so daunting as if you have to pull out an entire sweater. So anyway, that has been um, yeah, my knitting journey since around 2022. That is when I really wanted and got started knitting. I am going slow. I know that Jeanne at On the Hook Crochet, man, she's already made some tops. And so for me, my process may seem quite slow. But for me, it has been the process that has helped me persevere and keep going and start knitting. And now today, I have 2 socks, a scarf, a sweater that I am knitting, and a blanket that I am crocheting. Although I am going to crochet a beanie in a little while after this video, I will be. But I love knitting. I love crochet. I love knitting as well. And it's so exciting to be able to do both. So really, my last 2 tips to sum up this is go at a pace that is right for you. And tip number 2, watch videos. Find the ones that are those aha moments. They make it click for you, or ask for help. If you have a local yarn shop, you know people that are knitters, ask them for help. But watch a lot of videos until you find what is right for you. So that's my knitting journey. And as always, at the end of my videos, I love to leave you with a verse. And this is the one from Colossians, chapter 4, verses 7 to 8. And Paul is talking to the church at Colossae. And he says, Tychicus will tell you all about my activities. He is a beloved brother and a faithful minister and a fellow servant in the Lord. I have sent him to you for this very purpose, that you may know how we are, and that he may encourage your hearts. So, Paul sent a beloved brother back to the church in Colossae to encourage them. And I love that. We need encouragement in all things, especially as we follow and trust the Lord. But we need it in our crafting in life as well. So, if you've ever thought about knitting or any other craft, as I said earlier, that you want to do, you'd like to try, I hope that hearing about my knitting journey encourages your heart. So, do you have a knitting journey? I would love to know about it. So, if you are a knitter and you remember how you first got started, please share in the comments below. Love to know what your process, what your steps along that journey look like. It really may hit somebody right where they are and inspire them. So please share. I'd love to read about it. So, as I always say, you all, subscribers, viewers, every one of you bring me so much joy. And I hope y'all have a great week of crafting and creating. And we'll see you in the next video when I leave it to stitches. Bye.